What's up everybody, this is Mattia, and today we're going to talk about the TRN MT1s. These are a $7 pair of 10mm dynamic driver IMs, and they do some things. We're gonna compare them to the KZ EDX, which at this price is the main thing. There should also be the CCA-CA2, I think it's called like that, and some other TRN and some other KZs like the EDC, but for now I have only these two, and I'm going to compare them later in the review. So, this is of course not the stock cable. The stock cable is meh, like almost all of these cheapo KZ ones. It's the standard, like rubbery, flimsy, a bit plasticky, and thin, and it tangles up every single fucking time. It's intolerable. So I switched up to this, which is a beautiful, beautiful piece of cable. It's the Linso LSC08. You may have seen it in the review of the KZ EDX, which I have here, but as for my reviewing process, which has been very easy, honestly, this is an IM that is actually extremely easy to review, and right off the bat, it doesn't have a lot going for it in terms of specialness, at least not as much as the EDX in terms of some things. However, it does have a charm, and I think it is a combination of a pair of KZ EDX and a pair of Sony MH755 with being more of a jack of all trades rather than a specialist in something. Like, for example, the MH755 is a specialist for timbre, while the KZ EDX is a specialist for image grandness, image bigness, and treble execution and detail. Where do these land? So, first of all, let's get the build right off the bat. And you're asking, it's winter, why the fuck are you still in a regular shirt? I don't feel any cold at all. Nothing. I don't know why. It's almost December, and I'm still wearing this, and I don't know why. I wish I could just wear normal things, because people do look at me and say, hey, why the fuck you wearing a regular t-shirt? Cover yourself, cover your arms, why? And I don't feel cold just yet. We may have to wait until January, possibly. So, sorry, getting out of the argument. It's a plastic shell, regular plastic shell. I don't know. Let's see if I can focus this. Okay, I have to get my face off from the camera, otherwise it's going to pick me up. No, if it's getting it in focus. This camera absolutely fucking sucks. Well, I hope you can see it. I don't think I covered my face at all, but who cares? So, it's a regular plastic shell, the exact same one from the KZ EDX, although the EDX, I'm going to remove a piece right now. Are these the same? Yes, they are. The EDX is perhaps... no, it just might be color. The EDX is a completely blacked out shell. Well, this is slightly transparent. You can see the driver here, exactly. You can see the driver here, and this does have the protruded classic QTC pin, which is not by preference, honestly. Well, the EDX does have a flush socket with a recession on the contour of it, because the cable that EDX come with is shit. But anyway, it's made so that the classic hi-fi products, not like hi-fi, like hi-fi, the company that makes like the $2,000 fucking dollars, ICANN Pro Signature, what that thing, In the Black Label, they have this like USB-A giant motherfucking ass thing. It weighed a pound and it was a truck to insert, but you never broke that thing. It was impossible. These do have some sort of thing like that. It was a giant giant USB, but it's a two pin, so it's different. And I do prefer this style. I also think I do prefer the look of these, but otherwise comfort is, I'd say, very good to excellent. Honestly, they weigh probably 2 grams. Haven't actually weighed them in my scale, although the MT1s feels ever so slightly heavier. I don't know why, but it is, so who cares? But it is heavier. Oh, and it might actually be for the metal nozzle. These have a metal nozzle. The EDX does not. The EDX is all plastic, which is honestly a consideration you might want to take in, or you might not want to take in. And sorry if I'm all mumbling around things. All you want to know is the sound, perhaps. So this is a 10mm dynamic driver that you might already know, and I didn't have any QC issues like usually some people do get with TRN and some of the lower end KZ models. Some are just broken, because to make these things as cheap as they are, they must ditch the quality control pass, so they can sell it for $5, $7 to you. That's the only way to do it. Yeah, MT1's extremely comfortable. I will take the transparent shell because of the fact it isn't resin. It is completely see-through. You do not have like that opaque that's kind of masking effect like glass, frosted glass, and you can see through them completely. It's beautiful, honestly, and I will take them just for the looks. Honestly, I really like the transparent classic like I am design, like the ones from Ultimate Years. They are completely clear, transparent. You can see all the drivers inside. I love that look. So, sound. Sorry. We got to it. Finally. Sound. I'm going to sum it up. It's an L-shaped. It's not a V-shape like the KZ EDX. Although I've seen from the graph that the MT1 has some massive fucking badonga spikes in the upper mid-range. Although they're not nearly as peaky as it's seen on the graph, as is demonstrated on the graph. I do somewhat hear them, although sibilance is surprisingly controlled, and the treble is entirely smooth, unless you like turn up the volume a lot, which is a thing I don't get with the EDX. These have a smoother treble response and a mid-range that isn't concaved in a fucking canyon like the EDX. So these are more of a L-shape in the sense that, yes, the bass is particularly elevated, the mid-range is ever so slightly recessed, but not enough to call it V-shape. And since the fact that the mid-range does come back up from the hull and the hump that the bass makes, you get that more rich sound, and from the graph looks like it should be peaky as hell. It should be incredibly stabbing and everything else that comes with it. I don't get that, and I also don't get the recession in the lower mid-range, which is honestly a good thing. I do appreciate it. Unlike the EDX, which does have actually a lot of thinness going on in the mid-range, the MT1, despite lacking in detail and resolution when compared to the EDX, is smoother, fuller, and a bit more lively in the mid-range. So that's all I have to talk about the frequency response. The bass is 10 decibels of elevation coming down and sloping down at 400 hertz, which means you can expect some bleed, and that might be the reason that the warmth does come through despite the lack a bit of lower mid-range. So you do have a lot of bass, and it does thump more than the EDX, because the EDX is more focused towards the sub bass, at least to my ear. This is the more subjective stuff, and I'm leaving the graph as it is. I'm talking about more my own experience, so we're leaving the objective stuff and crossing over the subjective stuff. The bass does have decent punch and slam, better than the EDX. It does not have the same rumble in terms of sub bass as the EDX. What it does also lack is a bit of speed, and in both of these models, honestly, they both lack some speed. They're not particularly tight in terms of bass, surely not as the ER2XR or even the Starfields, which are, here we go, the Starfields, which are a bit bloated in terms of bass, do beat these out by a long margin, but these are $100 pair of IMs, so that's, take that as you will. You're not going to get the most clinical and clean bass from these. Do not also expect a lot of resolution and clarity. However, I must say the EDX is surprisingly more detailed, and it does present more resolution in the treble. The mid-range, despite it being as detailed as the MT1, which is to say not much, but it's way more recessed in the KZ EDX, so I do take the mid-range of the MT1s. Aside from that, we got the treble. The treble is more detailed, more sparkly, airier, more open, and a bit more sibilant on the KZ EDX. Unfortunately, for the MT1, there's not a lot going for the treble. It's a darker, smoother response. It doesn't have really a lot of resolution going on, so you might want to call it a duller sound in comparison to the EDX, which is way more open and lively, and that does also reflect in the soundstage department. So, as far as soundstage goes, soundstage is definitely more closed in the MT1s, and the EDX actually does spread out a bit more, and it is also slightly deeper. The imaging on both is meh, not much to speak of. There's a classic like 3 blob thing, left, middle, and right. So not really much going on here. It's not a Starfield, which is way better in terms of imaging, placement, and positioning. And also, I have to say that the MT1 does get bit blurrier when the bass notes strike, whereas the cleaner bass of the KZ EDX does retain itself from harming the imaging even more than it already is. It's okay. Ever so slightly better on the KZ EDX, especially on some songs, but they're both fine in terms of that. In terms of tonality, I will prefer the EDX, just in terms of overall enjoyment and things, just in general technicalities and things we're talking about. If you're talking about tonality, I will still take the EDX, because if you're going to do cheaper I am, less resolving, and just ultra budget I am. Just go all fun, and just the KZ EDX is that. It's a massive V shape with a lot of fun, with good amount of resolution, and well, in the treble, just in the treble, and it's fun. It's fun. It does some things in terms of soundstage, especially in the choruses and everything else, that just captures me more, despite it having a clinical and more lean tonality. These do not have the same warmth, the same thickness that the MT1 presents. So if you want a more natural tonality, that's why I say that these are like a mix of the EDX and the MH755. These are a bit warmer, a bit more dark, and they do have duller tonality that does present itself as a bit more natural and perhaps neutral. However, since the resolution here is not as good as the EDX, the more enhanced sound, the more contrasty sound of the Stealing That from Super Review, which he likes to do that thing. He likes to call the various frequencies compared to each other like in contrasty, which means that it's more of a dynamic sound. It's more of a, you get that separation in terms of the various frequencies, not necessarily in the micro departments, in the micro details. So if you want to hear boom, bang, and sparkle, go for the KZ EDX. If you want a bit more of a natural tonality and expect not loads of resolution and not loads of detail, more of a TNT2 like sound, but with way more bass, and I guess not as good as imaging, not surely not as those, but this is good. This is a good IM. I will absolutely recommend this. This destroys every single earpod or Xiaomi classic like Bluetooth earbuds, or the ones that you buy from the store. So yeah, it's a absolutely worthwhile investment. It's still a banger despite me not preferring it over the KZ EDX, but I do consider it a huge, massive step up from all of those included earphones that come in the phone cases, in all of those bundles. These are better by a lot. If you want to stray up in terms of price, but risk it even more in terms of QC, go for the the VK4. I actually don't. QKZ. It's called, the company is called QKZ, which I think it's a sub brand of like KZ, TRN, and Tonality. All of those companies are somewhat in relation one to another, which is to say, Kinera might be related to Fio, and TRN might be related to Fio, and all of those Chinese companies do know each other, and sometimes their production lines are decided upon a common decision. It's not always a single company inventing a product. Sometimes drivers do come from one or another company. A driver from TRN might come from KZ, and an earphone that is made up by KZ might come from a modification in the driver type, in the tuning of the driver of a TRN product. So that's about it. I really do enjoy these. I will listen to them with having the Etymotic R2XR or the Starfields, that's for sure. Those are 10 times more expensive, and even more actually. So yeah, worthwhile investment. I really do like these. The isolation is actually pretty decent, and it's better than the Starfields with any tips I have those with on, and just because it does fit a bit deeper in your ear canal due to the angled and longer nozzle. Yeah, definitely a good buy. I recommend these. I wouldn't change the tips despite them being a bit stiff and not very sticky. I wouldn't change the tips. I appreciate them, unlike the ones from KZ, which suck, absolutely suck. So, in the end, I will still take the EDX, but if you prefer a more natural tonality and a bit more mid-range fullness, MT1s. That's it. Sorry for the, oh my god, 21 minutes. Holy crap. Well, see you in the next one. Bye bye.